my name is Shevika, like Karthik said. I am in Bombay, and I've been in Bombay for about a year now. But before that, I lived in Bangalore. I was in the UK studying, but I grew up in Bombay. For the last 1 year, I've been thinking a lot about starting my own organization. And I've been working to see how we can work with young kids like all of you, to be more informed about political processes, and learn from you in terms of how do you make politics an aspirational career choice. Because right now, I don't think a lot of young people are thinking of entering politics or understanding the impact being in politics can have. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm learning a lot. It's slow, but it's happening. And I'm just here to learn from all of you today. So I'll pause here for any questions. And I just want to say thank you all for filling the survey. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you have other friends or other people you know who you think can fill the survey, please, please, please pass it on to them. I'm still looking for a lot more responses. So would really appreciate if you could pass on the survey to anybody you think is from the age of 12 to 24 and can fill the survey. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. What was the reason for starting an organization?
That's a great question. I was just frustrated because I worked closely with the government about 2-3 years ago. And my focus, you probably will see if you've looked at the website or the description, is on young girls, because we don't have that many women representatives. So in our parliament, we only have 14% women. For a population that is about 50% women, our representation is only 14%, which is pretty ridiculous, right? At the state level, our representation is much lower. It's between 9 to 11%. So even after about 75 years of independence, we don't even have we have less than 20% women representation. That's frustrating me. Also, I don't think a lot of young people in urban areas, maybe not in all, and especially outside Delhi, think of politics as an option or an opportunity, because even from the results that I'm seeing from the survey, a lot of people think politicians are corrupt, which is all true. I don't want to say that it's not true, that politics is corrupt, it's a dirty game, they don't want careers in politics. And I understand all of that, but can we demystify politics so that we can at least start having a conversation? Because it's very important that our country has smart political leaders that want to work for the betterment of the country, which includes women, right? So that's basically why I started this. And it's an uphill task for sure. It's not easy. And a lot of data, the reason I'm doing the survey is because a lot of data doesn't exist for India. So all the data you find about interest or aspirations in politics comes from outside India. So you have a lot of this data in the US, you will find it in Canada and Australia, but you don't find that for India. So I want to collect this data for India, and that's why I've been bugging Karthik all the time to help me get data from young people across the country, because it just doesn't exist. And we need to work towards getting more of that data. Yeah. So I'll pause here. If you have any clarifications, any other questions.
Yeah, so I have a question. What is the inspiration of the name Kuviraa? I'm not sure if I pronounced it right.
No, you did pronounce it right. It means courageous woman.
It means what?
Courageous woman in multiple Indian languages. I wanted an Indian name. So that's the inspiration behind it. I did a lot of research to figure out what would be a good name and it would be catchy. And I really liked the name Kuviraa, so it just stuck.
It's not personally. When you think of government and politics, what do you think of it in your mind? First thing in your mind, what will come?
Do you think, what did you say? Sorry, can you repeat your question, Brent?
What do you think of politics?
Yeah.
Please, right now, politics and government.
I think it's complex, and I wish someone spoke to me about it when I was younger. And that's why I want to speak to younger people about it. Because when I was growing up, nobody spoke to me about politics. Nobody spoke to me about it as a career choice or to think about it in interesting ways, right? And also just as a way to create change, right? Like when I was growing up, I knew I wanted to create change in some way, have some impact on society. When you start thinking about it as working with nonprofits to working with young people, that's why, in a way, I started working with schools when I was younger because I wanted to have an impact. But nobody talks to you about the potential impact you can create if you work in and around politics, right? Because that's tremendous. You can make so much of a difference if you do things correctly when you're in politics. I know it's hard and it's a lot of hard work. You have to be very thick skinned. All of that is true, but we do need good people to run our country. Otherwise, all the good people are just going to leave and go abroad and live, right? So that was why I also wanted to work on this.
Thank you.
Question: what were the steps that you had taken to create the form from idea to finish?
Yeah. So I think I thought I didn't do a survey for the sake of doing a survey, right? I did research online, a lot of it. I spent like 3-4 months just looking up all the data that exists online to understand what the gaps are, right? Like, what is, if you're doing a survey, you kind of need to understand what already exists and what is the information that you want to get out of it. Because if it already exists, I don't need to do a survey, right? Why should I work extra hard to do this if it's already, and a lot of data is already out there. So that was my first step, to see, when I wanted to work on politics with a focus on young people, women, what is the information that already exists out there, right? Then I started thinking about what is the information that is missing and what is the information I want. So the data that exists is how many women vote, what kind of voting choices do people have, why do they vote for a particular political party. But that is not the information I wanted. The information I wanted was, are young people thinking about politics, right? And you see these surveys, like India Today will do this survey to be like, they'll do approval ratings of different politicians, right? Like, what do you think of, say, Narendra Modi? You have that data, but that's not the data I wanted. One is because it exists, but I wanted to know, are people engaged politically? Are young people engaged politically? Do they see it as a career choice? Is there a difference between the way girls and boys think about politics? Right. So that's why I am asking both girls and boys to fill out the survey, because there was a recent study that said the older girls and boys get, their interest levels in politics changes. So it says they probably at some age, I think it was like 7 or 8, it's the same. But the older you get, girls become less interested in politics than boys. But that doesn't exist for India. That was, I think, either in the UK or in the US. So I wanted to know whether there's a difference between girls and boys, right? But I also wanted to make sure that we get responses in different ways, in a way which is not pushing people towards certain responses, but also representative enough. So if you see the survey, it's in English and Hindi.
What in
Now I have a doubt, but sorry. So, do you need high education, means very high education to join government? Or
Are you asking me if I think you need high education or is it a requisite? Because those are two different answers.
think?
I don't think you need very high education, but I think you need to, and you don't necessarily need formal education. I think you need to be knowledgeable about things. You need to read, you need to, because you see our politicians who just make like ridiculous statements about things that don't have any scientific backing. And you're like, how is this person running our country when they don't know anything? So you don't necessarily need a formal degree, according to me, but you need to know what's happening. You need to know that you can't just say things without it being correct or without them being factual or having scientific backing, especially with things like COVID and things like that, right? You can't just tell people to drink cow's urine and it will like, which a lot of our politicians tell you to, and they think you'll be cured by it. That's ridiculous, according to me.
How would you like to change the political system of India?
That's a tough question. I think I would just want, like I said, more women. And for people to be transparent, right? Like a lot of people don't know what is happening, why it's happening. I also don't know I don't know most things actually about how the country is run, and I wish people would make it more easy for other people to understand what's happening, why, and also vote on, like, make development goals voting agendas, right? Not other things, like talk about clean water, talk about education, talk about climate change, talk about all the issues that are going to impact us on a day-to-day basis versus like other unimportant issues, according to me. So yeah.
Okay. What is your opinion on the politicians of today?
Like how you're playing back my survey to me. I think some are good, but I think a lot of them could be much better. But I also think it's because we elected them. So like a part of me feels like we deserve it in a way, because we aren't engaged enough. We aren't holding them accountable. Like, who's holding up? I feel the politicians fool us because they know we can be fooled, right? So they are just smart people who are just riding along the wave. Like, we need to be more engaged. We are the ones voting them in, right? So we in a way are responsible for whoever we elect. So
Yeah, so I have one more question. According to you, how do you think like a good politician should solve problems that the country faces, and what are the qualities that he or she should possess?
I think it would be similar to what I answered for a good leader, but also like have a thick skin. Being a politician, it's like a marathon race. Like, it's not a sprint. It's a long-term thing. You don't see change in one day. You don't see change in 1 year. You see change maybe in 3 years, 4 years. So I'll give you an example of what happened with the Delhi government, right? I feel like they worked in the education, they worked with schools, but you couldn't see the change. The first 2-3 years, they were just laying the foundation to change or strengthen the education system. They weren't necessarily, you're not going to see change. It's not like you start working on education and all the kids get 90% tomorrow, right? It takes a while. You need to build a foundation. You need to talk about important things, but also stick to them and do it maybe scientifically. And also the other thing is, you get voted by a certain section of society, but once you win the election, you need to represent the entire society, not just the people who voted for you, right? Say tomorrow 3 of you vote for me as your class president, doesn't mean that I don't vote for the other 3 that didn't vote for me. I can't be like, you didn't vote for me, so I don't care about your needs, right? But I feel like that happens a lot, right? Like, just because people didn't get voted by a certain section of society doesn't mean you don't need to do. You are still a leader that has to represent or work for the welfare for everyone, irrespective of whether they voted for you or not. So yeah.
I think now the way that I look at politics is different. I mean, like before, I was like definitely not going to get into politics at all. I didn't really have much of an interest in politics. So yeah.
You made me so happy tonight. I feel like I can retire. Just like one girl has thought she can consider like a career in politics. But I'm glad that you're at least thinking about it. Of course, everyone changes their mind, right? Like, but I think my goal is also so that people are just not close to the idea, or just even like a lot of young people, when they grow up, they say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a musician. Can one of those be a politician as well? And then, of course, the older you get, you're like, actually, no, I want to still be a musician, and that's absolutely okay. But can a politician come into that mix, right? I don't think it's in that mix at all right now. So that's a goal that I'm trying to do with young kids, young people like yourself. So thank you. You made me very happy. I will nap in peace today.
How do you feel, Ben?
About politics, when I was like 10 or 9 years old, I thought politics was not hard, and I did not like at all. I did not like politics at all. Means when I saw movies like which had governments and they get money and that all. So I thought government is not good. Afterwards, when I started reading news and knew that they are helping people for building good roads, making metro stations and all for people who are doing jobs. So then I noticed that they are not the way they show in the movies. So it changed after 2 or 4 years.
That's great. Can I just say one thing also? When you talk about a career in politics, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to run for office. You don't have to be the politician yourself. There are many roles you can do, either with a political party or to help politicians. So you can do research, you can work on their campaigns, you can do social media for them, right? So there are many roles that you can work on. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are the one who will become the politician. So don't only think about careers in politics as just running for office. There are so many other things around that you could also do if you don't necessarily want to run for politics, or you don't want to be like a representative, you don't want to be prime minister, but you can be the economic advisor to the prime minister. You can be another advisor, you can work, you know what I mean? So there are many other things that you could do to help the political system in our country.
Actually, I have a question right now.
Yes, of course.
So I don't know if this question has been repeated, but I am the sort of person whose mindset is against politics or anything related to civics completely. I know that sounds very bad and I want to change it, but for me, I don't understand what is happening. What are these set of people coming? At times, after reading my history books, it's like a caste system for me. It sounds like a caste system where you have different sets of people, or it's not as bad as that. And I have a bigger sister who is totally in for politics. She wants to do everything in it. I believe she said me she wanted to be in a position where she gets the rule from the chief minister and she has to follow it out with the people, sort of. I'm not sure what position she told me. So for a person like me, what would you say to me to change my mind, actually? Because
I think just read, learn more. first step is like, it's not as bad as you think it is. I think that's the hardest, right? Because nobody talks to us. Nobody is talking about politics positively. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you to think the way you think, because
My main reason why I think about it is not actually because of the surrounding more of my old school. I was forced to learn the civics subject and I did not like it. That and also
talk to us so
mindset.
badly. Like, I don't like blame you. Like, you, like, all the civics you learn is not going to help you in I mean, Kartik's going to hate me to say this,
No, no,
but
no,
I
go
don't know.
right ahead.
I don't know
I'm
if it's going
outside
to
the
help you.
ambit of academics. We are
I
here
don't
for
know if it's going to help you the way they teach you civics, right? Like, so I don't blame you for where you come from, but please also please share the survey with your sister and ask her to fill
Yeah,
it and ask.
she is crazy about the whole
How
politics.
old is your sister?
She's older than me, I think 10th or 9th somewhere.
Okay, so not that old. So yeah, please share this with your sister and ask her to share it with her friends, so everyone can get me 10, 15 responses. I'll appreciate it a lot.